It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. If you need to get a hold of me, go to Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting at my email address, oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. Also, be sure and check out our Patreon. Always put up new content on our Patreon. Everything here Monday to Friday, AM, FM radio, you can find on Patreon with all the ads and the commercials cut out. We got exclusively up there an interview I did with May Pang, John Lennon's girlfriend there from The Lost Weekend. The love story film just came out October 13th. Check that out. And also, too, check out our archives at Spreaker.com. Go to Spreaker.com. That's where we have all of our archives. There's a chat room. You get an email notification. And I do a live show there every Friday night, solo show. Today's show's a little special. We got a friend of the show here. She's a listener. I met her through the show. Adrianna Frizzell, and recovering addict, okay, had an unfortunate brush with the law, as we like to call it around the Opperman Report, and she's got a GoFundMe called From Addict to a Future. It's run by her fiance, Cody Oman. So you can check that out there. And we want to just get her story here about how she fell into the grips of drug addiction, how she got out of it, and the difficulties of dealing with probation and parole and the court system and trying to get your driver's license back. Here we have someone here trying to get on the right road of life, but we're being held back by these stupid fines and conditions of probation. So, Adrianna, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you so much for joining the show. Before we get into the whole story, let's put aside From Addict to a Future and all of that. Let's say you and me are sitting at the soccer game. We're watching your little boy Jace out there running around the field there, kicking the ball. Hey, Adrianna, who are you?
Well, I guess I would just say I'm a mother, a Christian mother who loves her kid, who's trying to work hard and trying to basically start over and rebuild my life from the ground up. I don't have a lot of hobbies right now because I just started working, which I haven't worked in 13 years due to addiction. But I'm just a 32-year-old woman who has a child who I'm trying to bring up in the right way. I did not have the best childhood, and so that's basically what I would say. The most important thing in my life is my child and how I raise him up, and more importantly, how he sees how I handle my struggles and my tribulations.
I hear you. It's so true in our lives. You know, God first, our family second, Christian woman, mother, of this beautiful little boy. If you go to GoFundMe right now and you put in GoFundMe From Addict to a Future, you can see a picture of this kid. I don't even think we need to raise any money because this kid could be the future, the next Brad Pitt. Okay? And I'm not even exaggerating. This kid is adorable, man. You can check him out. Adorable little guy there. So tell us about Jace. What is Jace like?
Oh, Jace, it's actually really ironic and funny. Jace, his most favorite thing is monster trucks and police cars. Oh. Yeah, and he loves, he's a little boy, of course, so he loves to play outside. He loves to play in the gravel. He loves to play in the dirt. So, most parents would probably like to be able to give their kids a bath once, twice, maybe 3 times a week. For me, it's every single night because he goes straight outside and puts dirt and mud in his hair every single time he walks out the door. But he's incredibly smart. He just turned 2 August 23rd. He's starting to say a lot of stuff now. He can say, what are you doing? Where'd you go? He can definitely tell you no. It's actually kind of funny because he likes to make the police car sound noise. So he'll be going, wow, 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 in the car and stuff. But yeah, he's just amazing. He's just like any other little boy, full of life, loves to play, loves to laugh.
Incredibly adorable kid. I tell you, we'll run out of time.
Yeah, he has a little man bun with a face.
That's right.
And the girls love it.
Got his hair done there. But you ask any parent to talk about their kid. Now we're running out of time. We only have an hour show there, Adrianna. But it's just people just love talking about their kids.
I could go on forever.
And you said he likes to play outside. So you guys are in Brooklyn, New York, right? You're from Brooklyn, right?
Oh, you're hilarious.
With your Brooklyn accent, right?
Yeah. We're from Dayton, Tennessee.
Oh, Tennessee. I never would have guessed Tennessee. You say, oh, my goodness. I'm shocked. I'm shocked.
Right.
Adrianna Frizzell, from Addict to a Future. Adrianna Frizzell, how did you become an addict?
Oh, wow. Well, I grew up a Baptist, but around the age, I guess early childhood, 8, 9 years old, I know my mother started drinking around that time, and it started off just drinking, and then eventually it led to pain pills and medications, and then she had all these medical diagnoses that she could get these pain pills for, because I'm telling you, if you go to these doctors with something, they'll find a reason to diagnose you with something to give you these kind of medicines. So my mom went from an alcoholic to pain pill addict, and that's how I have two younger sisters. I'm the oldest out of 3. I'm 32. I have a 25-year-old sister and a sister that just turned 31. So me and my middle sister, we're really close in age. So all throughout the rest of middle school and high school, my mom and dad were going through really hard times. My mom, like I said, my mom had became an addict. She was hardly ever home. I had to take care of my sisters most days. My dad worked second shift, so he would pick us up from school, drop us off at home. I would take care of me and my sisters, and he had to go back to work. And my mom, at that point, she had got to the point to where she was never coming home. She would call and check on us, of course, but she wasn't actually there.
So I'm guessing if this was around 2000, that was OxyContin your mother was on, right?
Right. Yeah. OxyContin, and then it was like hydrocodone and then oxycodone. But yeah, OxyContin was the first big one, the worst one in my opinion. And so my mom is full blown addict. She's broken her vow to our family and to my father, of course. She's not coming home. My dad's angry. And so they eventually, they get divorced. But around this time, I'm a junior in high school. My mom moves out. My sisters go and live with her. I stay with my dad. I was actually working then. I was working at a grocery store. I started working as soon as I could at like 15 years old. And then I started to notice that my sisters were not doing well living with my mom. They were able to do whatever they wanted, get out, run the streets, meet with boys at a very young age. It wasn't too long until I found out that my middle sister had started using with my mother. And so I left my comfort zone and my safe zone with my dad, and I moved in with my mom so I could look out for my sisters pretty much. And I just had this huge heart, and really I didn't know what I was doing because it became too much for me. So when I graduated high school, I moved like 30 minutes north from here, which is Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I went to college while my sisters were still here with my mom. By then, my middle sister had gotten pregnant with her first child. Our baby sister was still growing up amidst all this chaos and addiction. I mean, my mom, she would come down the stairs on a school night and just be like, hey, I just took every single one of my medications and my pill bottles. I'm going to overdose. I need to go to the hospital. Oh, we're like, we got to go to school tomorrow. So, yeah, it was just that kind of environment. People always in and out of the house. I know I'm backtracking. I'm sorry about that.
You're fine.
But
You're fine.
I was working, and, we did not have much growing up. We grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment. Me and my 2 sisters, we shared a room. And so, like I said, I started working at a young age because I wanted to be able to have things. And when I moved in with my mom, I'd actually rented myself one of the flat screen TVs from a rent-a-center.
Yeah.
And I was so excited because it was like I was about to pay off my final payment, and I went to bed that night, and my mom had actually let some junkies come in and like steal my money. Oh. And then come to find out later, like it wasn't like they just came in and she didn't know about it. It's like they were all in on it. So
that's a whole nother side to all this stuff like this. When you're living around these junkies, everybody's ripping each other off, and they forgive each other, and they're stealing. It's just a nightmare.
For sure. Everyone's always plotting. No one actually cares about each other. Everyone is just around each other just for the sake of using.
Yeah, and on top of that, these rent centers, that stupid TV probably costs like $5,000. That was right when flat screens like became a thing. Yeah.
So it was like literally like I felt like I was something big like with that flat screen. Like I went from having one of those hunchback TVs to that flat screen, so I was super excited.
And meanwhile, those payments are it's like $45 every 2 weeks or whatever.
Right, like so much interest.
It's insane. Yeah, I know. You could buy 10 TVs by the time you pay the thing off. Oh my God, yeah. But that's what they get you, man.
It wasn't even really, the TV. It was just the fact that it was just so heartbreaking. Even though I had to grow up fast. It was still heartbreaking to know that like a parent who doesn't even work for herself. She was on disability for that's a whole other story. But she was on disability, and just to know that back then. Before you become if you don't experience addiction, it's really hard to understand addiction. That's why there's so much judgment on addiction. So for me, it was just absolutely just heartbreaking that my mother could do that for me, and then sit there and play the part like, oh, they did that to you, when really they were all in on it and they all went and bought drugs with my money, But anyway, so then I graduated high school and I moved down to Chattanooga. I was going to college. I did really well for a couple years. I was in school for nursing. I was working several jobs. I've worked at every bar you can think of: Applebee's, O'Charlie's, Amigos, the Palms. I've worked everywhere in Chattanooga. And then the last serving job I had was at a place called the Palms. And it was like an upscale restaurant nightclub. It was like restaurant by day, nightclub at night, and it was real middle and high class. And so I'm 21 years old, and I've not got a lot, but I've got my little apartment. I'm going to school. I'm paying my own bills. I'm working full time, and so I meet this man that's a regular in the bar I'm working at, and at the time. I did not know that he was married, and of course he was several decades older than me. But I was 21 years old. I was young, and he would take me shopping. He would take me out, and it took a while for me to catch on at what it was turning into, and that's how I ended up having a very wealthy sugar daddy. He was a financial advisor, and for about the first year, all we did was go shopping and go out on dates and stuff, and then of course it turned into something else. And I can't put all the blame on him, because greed plays a big part. When you're 21 and you've come from a broken home and you've come from nothing, like you want to live lavishly. You want to go on trips to Atlanta. You want to go on trips. I say lavishly because that was lavish to me.
Well, but don't forget also too, you've already survived several traumas, childhood traumas. Yeah. So that's not unusual, that, there are people out there too, even, he thinks he's well-meaning. They kind of like, prey on that kind of vulnerability in people. They see their trauma. We were just talking off the air about a guy, who's running around, preying on those victims.
Yes. And these people they're so good at what they do, because you don't see it coming. Like I said, like the first year it was just it was nothing physical. He was just kind. He gave me money, offered to pay my bills, get my car fixed, take me shopping, get me a separate hotel room in the hotel we were both staying at. So like I was just
you were living in a hotel.
No.
Oh.
When we would go out of town and
Gotcha.
travel together, you know, he would get me my own hotel room.
Yeah.
And then that went on for like a year, you know, before it ever turned into something else. And by then, when he initiated that, you know, that he wanted something else, by then I had gotten so used to this lifestyle of just being able to have someone give you money, take care of your needs, that, you know, I was reeled in. I was hooked. And so I ended up getting fired from that job because he would come in drunk and spilling drinks on people, coming up to me, you know, being jealous of me, just, you know, serving my tables, you know, doing my job. And I ended up losing my job because of it. And so he was like, all right, don't worry, you know, it's fine. You know, I'll get you a place. And he did. He got me a 3-bedroom, 2-bath condo. He paid the rent for like 2 years. And at the time, my middle sister had 2 kids, and she was in a rough spot. So I was able to let them come and live with me, and I wasn't having to work because he was paying for everything. But anyways, fast forward through all that. There's so much shame and guilt that comes with being, let's just call it what it is, a prostitute, you know, a paid escort, you know, because that's what I ended up being. You know, he would pay my way. He had more than enough money to pay for everything I needed, but I was literally like a slave. I had to be on call. I had to be where he wanted me to be. I had to be at what restaurant he wanted me to be, and at the time he wanted me to be there so he could show me off to his friends, you know. And on all the meanwhile, this guy's got a fiance, which I found out, you know, a year into it when I was already hooked into the lifestyle. Yeah, so for the next 2 years, that's how I lived my life. You know, meeting this guy wherever he wanted, going out of town with him. I mean, literally, I was going to on senior golf trips, if that tells you anything. And you know, he's paying my bills. He, you know, on my birthday, he would give me like 15, 20 grand cash. I went and, you know, bought me a car, you know, paid cash for it. And you know, all the meanwhile, I'm just broken. You know, like at this point, I couldn't hide the fact of what I was doing. I mean, it was so obvious because I'm not working, but I have all these nice things. My sisters knew. You know, my parents ended up finding out, and there was so much guilt. There was so much shame, and so that's how I started using. The first time I ever used, I had drove home to Dayton to see my mom, and I ended up using with my mom. And
your mom supplied you with the drugs?
Yeah.
That's just amazing. When you're in the grips of those addictions and other behaviors, you want to suck other people into it with you, you know, and not even in a bad way. I guess maybe to make yourself feel better about yourself or whatever. But
right.
It's just so common, you know.
Yeah, well, that's just the lie of addiction. You know, it's addiction promises euphoria, you know, and it's such a lie. But when people are constantly in that euphoria, when people are constantly high, it's so hard to realize the lie of it. So you're like, here you go, you know, this will make you feel better, you know, and of course that lie shatters, you know, as soon as it wears off. But someone like my mom, she, you know, she constantly had stuff because, you know, she was getting prescribed it and she was getting stuff from the streets. And of course, you know, all the friends and the buddies that you get stuff from. So yeah. You know, it was just second nature to her.
Yeah. And one more thing too.
I don't think she knew what she was doing, but.
Well, but you mentioned before too, she was on disability. And these same doctors that are giving you the diagnosis for the disability, so you get that $1,400 a month, are the ones who are diagnosing you for the pain medication. That they're you know, making money off these pain mills. You know, incredible. Especially back in those OxyContin days, man. It was just so all these pill centers back then had a line around the block. Back in those days, and you could sell those things like $60 a pill. When you had those oxys and the Roxys.
And even more in these small towns, like double and triple that. But yeah, and you know, back then too, you could get prescribed a narcotic and like a nerve relaxer or muscle. Like people were getting prescribed pain medicine and Xanax. Now that's a big no-no. They don't do that anymore. But my mom was one of those people.
Right. And in 2000, you could still go pharmacy shopping. You could still go doctor shopping back in those days. They didn't have all this stuff standardized on the computer. Now you try and get any kind of prescription filled. It's like they're treating you like you're Al Capone going in there trying to get your medicine.
And it's so crazy because, they weren't tracking it. My mom was one of those people that traveled, different places.
You could have two prescriptions for the same stuff from two different doctors and go to two different pharmacies and get them filled.
Right,
yep.
Yeah. And
back then.
And it's almost like, it was just like they set it up that way. Yeah. She actually, my mom has actually been to the hospital to have her stomach pumped.
Wow.
I believe over 30 times. There are some hospitals here in the local counties she won't even go to because she knows that they know her and they know her fluently. But yeah, it's just just to show like how bad it is, and she's still an addict to this day.
Mm. What about back to Adrianna Frizzell? How did you wind up in the criminal justice system?
Well, yeah, that's what it was leading up to. Mm. So the sugar daddy, as long as I was young and beautiful and doing whatever he wanted, everything was great. Well, when I got on these drugs to cope with what I was doing and who I had become, you notice that. And so, this man, he was a financial advisor. He had absolutely no time to deal with somebody who was going to show up places high or was going to be calling him from jail. I became an embarrassment and a nuisance to his life, and he cut me off just like that. He bonded me out of jail the first time I went, and then fast forward months later when I went to jail again, he came in and visited. He literally took the time. This is how these people are. He took the time to come down and wait in line for hours to visit me, which is, it's on a video screen.
Yeah.
Just to get on the phone for 10 seconds and say, you brought this on yourself. Don't ever contact me again.
Wow.
So yeah.
What kind of charges? Was like shoplifting stuff? What were you doing back in those days?
Yeah, shoplifting. I started out doing pain pills, and then I started doing Xanaxes. And yeah, if anyone knows anything about Xanaxes, that's just like the stealing drug. You take a Xanax, and you're like, I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence. Yeah. Like that's how confident you feel. And so, yeah, it just, it was just minor misdemeanors, theft charges, and then
Valium and Xanax too. They're the worst ones to go cold turkey on because you can get seizures and stuff like that if you go cold turkey on those things.
Yes.
So that's a whole.
And there were women in jail that seized out all the time.
Yeah.
From heroin and nerve medicine use withdrawal. But anyways,
if someone's detoxing in the jail, they won't say this guy's detoxing. He's having a heart attack because they won't. If you're detoxing, if you're seizure from a withdrawals, they don't do nothing. But if you're having a heart attack, they'll come in and take you out.
Oh yeah, and these when I was in jail down in Chattanooga, Tennessee, the guards there, they would make jokes about it because, like I said, when people who've never. Even though everyone, if they're being honest, has been touched by addiction in some way, because it's in nearly every family, but they would still, some of these people, they still act like they're better than you, and it's just like you're just a guard at a jail. But they would say stuff like that. They say, "Oh, when they can't bond out, they seize out." Yeah. And these people are really going through serious withdrawals. This old woman actually died in the bed right beside me. She was withdrawing from heroin. And she died. Her heart stopped. Yeah.
And you got to think correction officers got to be one of the most miserable jobs in the world, man. Like, who even takes that job,
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Like, who would even want to do that?
Right, and then most of them are just they bring stuff into the girls all the time.
Gee, you think so?
I
thought that was I thought that was a rumor. No, you really do, huh?
Right.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Right. I'm not saying nothing that nobody doesn't know, but so anyways,
there's actually remember Dana Moore, prison in upstate New York, when there was a prison escape, and there was a live TV news stand-up outside the prison. The newscaster standing there, and you could see a rope come down behind them with a basket, and they put something, and then they're pulling the basket back up to the window of the prison. I know, live on TV, and it's definitely not a prisoner doing that. I can guarantee you that. It's our own rope and basket at Dana Moore prison.
The prisoners were like, this is a perfect time to do something like this because everybody's distracted with this escape.
Escape, yeah.
We're just going to be as obvious as we can.
Yeah.
Didn't they make a show about that? Yeah,
there was a couple of movies about it. I had a couple of the authors on who wrote books about it. And one of the guys, I said to him, I says, look, man, come on, you're trying to tell me this guy crawled out in this tiny little pipe, and then they find him hiding out at one of the guards' hunting shacks. It just happens to belong to one of the guards. And he goes, yeah, that's what happened. So, I think it's not a very well-kept secret that those guys just walked out of there, and they did all these movies.
Right, exactly. I mean, had to.
Yeah, I don't think they were shimmying through some little 12-inch pipe. Oh, my goodness.
Okay, so where were we?
We were, you're brushed now with the criminal justice system.
Yes. Okay, so this is the time he didn't come and bail me out of jail. So now I'm stuck in jail. This is the first time I did 6 months. Ooh. So he ends up going and putting all my stuff in a storage building. At that time, because I was so heavy on drugs, I had taken out a lien on my car.
Right.
So, my title payment, it was only like $150, but I couldn't get him to help me. I couldn't get no one to pay it for me. So I ended up losing my car, losing all my stuff that was in storage, literally everything. I mean, I lost everything. I came out of jail 6 months later with nothing. And so here I am out of jail. And so I end up calling him, and when you're an addict, you'll do anything. You'll lie, you'll cheat, you'll steal, you'll threaten. And I'm ashamed to say that now, but that's what I did. I threatened to out his whole life if he didn't help me. And so we played that game for about the next 2 years of him putting me in. I literally lived in hotels for like 2 years. I would live at one hotel for a couple months. He'd come pay it every Friday. And I ended up switching hotels because whatever, I'd run off on a plug or something, and so I did that for about 2 years. And at this time, I had already gotten sold. I was just on pain pills like the Perk 30s, like the oxycodone 30s, oxycodone 15s, but fentanyl has been around a lot longer than people think it has, because I think I was sold my first fentanyl pill in like I want to say like 2023. I'm sorry, 2013, 2014. It seems like it seems like it's just now became a thing like so recently, but yeah, I was still fentanyl, way early on into my addiction, and I wasn't out trying to buy fentanyl, but that's why I ended up getting sold, because they would make them look just like the oxycodone 30s. And so, and that changed everything right there. From then on, I had to have that. The regular pain medication did not. The legal pain medication just did not do it anymore. And
how many times a day were you taking fentanyl?
Oh goodness! I mean, I would spend $300 a day easy.
Wow.
And I was making money, getting money from him. He was basically paying me off to keep my mouth shut. And of course, I was prostituting on the side, living in and out of hotels. I never did Backpage, but I I met some of my clients or his friends, and then you meet people through them, and then, you know, someone will be like, oh, I have a friend. And so, yeah, I ended up having a whole clientele. So
yeah, that motel prostitution and drug addict is the most.
Yeah.
It's probably the riskiest lifestyle you can have. Your odds of getting out of that, man, in one piece, are so slim. Thank God, praise God that you got yourself out of there, man. That's really incredible.
Yes, you know, and only by the grace of God.
Yeah.
But I will say, you know, like I was so busy chasing the drugs that I never even thought to think about, like, you know, like I could have been human trafficked. I did have a gun pulled on me a few times, you know, when I had someone try to rob me. I had someone rob me successfully once or twice, but yeah.
Well, did you have men that controlled like your driver's license and on your ID and stuff like that? Did you have people like that?
You know, no. After my sugar daddy, which, you know, I didn't go into detail as how controlling he was, but after that, no. You know, I would just have, you know, the clients that would just come and go. Okay. You know. Yeah,
because once you get into that situation where they take away your driver's license, you know, and now you got no ID, you got warrants, you can't go to the cops. You know, it's a hopeless. Yeah. It's not like the trafficking people think. The trafficking, like people are being held kidnapped. The system keeps you held kidnapped, you know? And you can't go to the cops. And any contact you have with the cops anyway, you're getting arrested. It's people have no idea, you know? I would try and help some people, you know, and I'd go on there and say, please, you know, we got to come up with a solution here. Go to the police. Go to the police. Every time she goes to the cops, she gets arrested, you know? And we've interviewed these people on the show. Yeah. Annika Mack, man, the pimp sold her. She had gangrene in her legs, man. They dumped her at the emergency room, and the cops wanted to press charges on her there, okay? And now she's a hero, you know, but in reality, when all this was going on, man, they wanted to arrest this woman.
Yeah, right. There's no way to ask for help without outing yourself, which is crazy. You know, and unfortunately, I had no problem getting myself put in jail. You know?
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, you know, just, you know, constantly, you know, driving other people's cars without a license, stealing, you know, just, I mean, I racked up so many charges. But, you know, at the time, I never thought that I would get sober. So, like, I genuinely did not care. I didn't have kids. I used to literally tell people, like, look, if I want to overdose and go and die in a ditch somewhere, that's on me. Like, you know, can you imagine that kind of outlook on life?
Hopelessness, it's no future.
Yeah, just absolute hopelessness.
Yeah, and just can I make it till Friday? You know, can I make it till Monday? You know,
right? Yeah, and you know, there would be times when I would make, you know, a couple $1,000s in a day, you know, hustling, prostituting, and instead of going and like. And this was after my the dude had done cut me off, you know. I was out just doing my own thing, paying for my own stuff. You know, instead of just going and paying, you know, for my hotel or putting you know, a month or two rent down or somewhere, I would just pay for like a couple more days in the hotel and go spend the rest on drugs. Like, I mean, that's how bad it was. Like, it was totally normal for me to snort $500 a day. Knowing very well the next morning I'm going to have to get up and figure out how I'm going to do it all over again.
Yep.
You know, but that's the lifestyle. And so anyway.
There's a whole suicidal spiral into it, too. You know you're killing yourself, you know?
Right.
But there's that suicidal spiral. You just can't stop yourself. And there is a demon in that. You know, if you want to get, I don't know, what is your faith? Pentecostal? Because I became Pentecostal. And,
yes, Pentecostal.
Yeah. Well, that's why you got freed from that stuff. The Holy Spirit, man. It really works.
Yes, for sure.
It really works.
Sure.
Yeah.
And, you know, addiction has ran in my family, and you know, through the original sin, we all inherited sin, and I really do believe that we inherit the sins of our fathers until someone chooses to stand in the gap, and it takes active faith and lots of prayer and lots of Holy Spirit intervention to break these strongholds. And so and that's why it's so hard. Like for me, you know, even though I grew up Baptist, like when I was in the rough of addiction, I never thought to call out to God. I never thought to pray out to God. All I just thought was, okay, I need my next fix. I need to escape this feeling, and that's the lie. That's the stronghold. That's the lie that the devil tells you, So you won't reach out and pray to God, because when you do, that exchange happens. Like all you have to do is, ask and you will receive. And a lot of times people don't understand that, because Jesus died so we didn't have to carry these burdens. And it's so important, I think, for anyone who is stuck in addiction and even if you don't believe, what can it hurt to just call out and just to pray and to ask God to intervene? I think that for me, I know that's what did it for me. But anyways, so fast forward, I went to jail a couple more times, and granted, each time I went to jail, I spent 6 months each time, so I got sober, and then we just get right back out and go right back to it. So the last time I did 6 months in jail in Chattanooga was in 2019. I got out in August. I came home back to Dayton because at that point I had nowhere to go. I'd burnt every bridge. I didn't have anything. You go to jail, you lose your phone, whatever. You lose all your contacts. Most of these people change numbers all the time anyway. So you have to literally. Addiction's so crazy. You have to get out and you have to start over every single time. So I ended up going back home to Dayton, Tennessee. Moved in with my mom because I had no place to go. She's still an addict. She's got other addicts living with her. At this time, both of my sisters are in full-blown addiction. And me and my mom couldn't get along. I ended up moving out of her place and moving into a hotel here in Dayton, doing the same thing. Found new Johns here, and I had a friend who was a user, and we used together. And she was over in my hotel room one night, and she was just like, okay, me and my brother live together, and we have an extra room. I'm sure, since you have food stamps and since you know how to make money, I'm sure my brother would let you come stay. And her brother, he had just got home from the Air Force. He had been in the Air Force for 6 years. And so she takes me over there and she introduces me to him. He's like, yeah, just clean up after yourself, pay your bills, He knew his sister used, and I'm sure he assumed that I used. All he was concerned about was that, we just paid our part. So I'm out of the hotel, let me move in with them. And that's actually how I met my son's father. It was my friend's brother. And so I'm living there, and it's going into like 2020 now. And I got to know her brother. We had a lot of things in common, both very, very spiritual people, even though I wasn't really religious at the time. You can be spiritual and not religious, I guess, But anyways, so I got him on drugs. He had an
I was gonna say,
yes,
he's such a good-looking guy, man. This guy, your boyfriend, Cody, and he was totally straight until you got your claws into him, right? He was doing good.
Right.
Oh,
yes, let
man.
me tell you, there is nothing, and I'll be the first to admit it. There is nothing like a beautiful woman who knows a little bit about life, that can not just come and mess up everything.
So this poor guy, he just got out of the service too, right? And then he runs into you.
Yeah, the Air Force, 6 years.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And bless his heart, he had been married before he went to the service, and she didn't want to go live on base with him, and they were already having problems, so they had got divorced, and so. She's in the service for 6 years, doesn't really have any relationships, has flings, and then comes home, and meets me. So yeah, he had I think his daughter, she's 12 now, she's about to be 12, I'm sorry. She's 11 now. So she was 8 or 9 then. And so anyways, we get together and he's using by this time, we had already moved out. out of that apartment because we just me and his sister weren't getting along at the time, and she ended up going to rehab. And so me and him were just kind of going from place to place. We had some friends who lived in a county over that let us come stay with them. By then we're both heavy on drugs. Of course, I was already heavy on drugs, but because he was with me, he was on drugs. And it goes like that for a little while. We bounce around from place to place. We end up getting another apartment. Can't keep it. I mean, I'm pretty sure we lost it after the first month. We couldn't even pay. We paid what we had to move in, but then we couldn't even pay the first month's rent when the time came. And so he had a car that was paid for. It was a Jeep, and so we ended up paying for hotels when we could, and when we couldn't, we lived in his car. And this went on for like the whole year of 2020. And then towards the end of that year, we found out I was pregnant. I was terrified. I'm ashamed to admit I still didn't care. I mean, the first thing I did when I found out I was pregnant was get high. And I'm very ashamed to admit that, but
it happens. It happens.
Yeah. Like we've been saying, addiction is it's a stronghold, and I didn't have any kids, so I had never been through the process, so even while I'm using it, my belly's getting bigger. Like, one thing you have to understand when you're addiction is that you have no emotions. Yeah. You're numb to everything. How else do you think people lie and cheat and steal so effortlessly? That we don't.
Well, especially
access our emotions.
Yeah, when you get addicted at an early age, you really never mature. That you stay stifled at that age when the substances started. So there's a whole maturing thing too you got to deal with. But most people, if they straighten out their life by the time they're 29, 30, man, they're in good shape. They got a chance to get through this. So then this is what inspired you to finally get off the drugs, was little Jace?
Okay, so we keep going on. We're jumping from hotel to hotel. I'm still prostituting, even though I'm getting big, 4, 5, 6 months big. And then I'm 6 months pregnant. I'm still using it. This time I'm snorting fentanyl. I'm shooting meth. And and this whole story I've just told you, this has spanned over 10 years. Right. And I was actually staying at a hotel right across from the courthouse. And I had court. I was supposed to go to court for, I can't even remember what it was for now, but I'm staying across the road from the courthouse in a hotel, and I miss court. So I get an STA. I have a warrant out for my arrest, and I'm in a hotel right across the road from the courthouse. Like, that alone speaks for addiction, And then,
I've seen. We've had clients in the hallway who couldn't make it in. Okay, that's still common. You have no idea,
And, I knew, too, I knew, too, that, police, because I've been arrested in a hotel before. I've had marshals come get me at a hotel in Chattanooga. Right. I know, of course, if you have a warrant, you never have the room in your name. Yeah, right. But, I'm so deep into addiction, I don't even think about it. I don't even care. And so they bust in and they get me. I've got literally lines of fentanyl lined out. I've got needles everywhere. And that was May 28th, 2021, my birthday, actually. And so I go to jail at 6 months pregnant. I'm charged with possession of paraphernalia, possession of oxycodone, even though it was fentanyl. I don't know. I don't know if they don't have a way to test for fentanyl or what, but they labeled it on my paper. It says oxycodone.
Or they had a side deal going on.
Okay. Right, okay, and it's funny that you said that because I had 30 pills, and I know I did because I just got them, but on my paperwork it only says 8. Yeah.
Well, and not only that, too, but I'm sure, did the cops, did they know you, the cops that came and arrested you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, see, because see, that's an easy pickup. Adrianna, she weighs 25, 90 pounds, she's pregnant. Oh, let's go get her.
Right.
Yeah, it's a whole.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and this is what's so crazy is my bond, okay, my charges, I had I had like 23 different charges. Okay, like from where I had went to jail the whole year of 2021. I had went to jail 3 or 4 times. I had wrecked my boyfriend's car. I went right through a red light and got T-boned. Totaled his car. Totaled the car of the person that I hit. I'm sorry, I T-boned somebody. I didn't get T-boned. And so I went to jail for possession and DUI. Bonded out on that. Later on went to jail for public intoxication. Bonded out on that. Later on went to jail for public intoxication and possession. Bonded out on that. And then, so that's what I missed court for, was those charges. And then so they came and picked me up. This is the 4th time I've been in jail that year. I'm so messed up when I get there, because once I knew that was the police knocking, I tried to snort as much of my drugs as I could. And so I'm so messed up when I get there that the nurse had to Narcan me.
Wow.
And, I don't know how, but they do a thing now where, like, if you fail a drug test, they can give you a detox kit, but only if you fail a drug test. So even though they had to Narcan me, and even though they walked in and saw me doing drugs and had all my paraphernalia and had my drugs, somehow I passed this drug test. And the only way I can think is because they don't test for fentanyl. These little 12-step teacups. I don't know if they just don't register synthetic opioids or what. But anyways, everyone could tell I was messed up. Everyone knew I was an addict. This is the 4th time I had been there in 5 months. So I'm having to detox cold turkey, and I'm freaking out. You know, my bond's $200,000. So, like, all right, we're gonna try to make it impossible for her to get out, because she's already made $100,000 in bonds this year, and I did that through threatening Johns. So here I am, 6 months pregnant, going through the most terrible withdrawals. My bond is $200,000, and I'm still calling Cody. I'm still calling Johns. You know, thinking that, you know, in my mind, I just want to fix. You know, I just want to get high. I'm really thinking that it might be possible that someone might be able to make that bond, which is crazy. You know, like $200,000. It's gonna be like $20,000 just to get me out. So finally, after 2 weeks went by, I hung that up, and I'm still going through the worst withdrawals. Can't sleep. I'm throwing up everything. I mean, this is vulgar, but, diarrhea in front of everybody, and not only this, I'm 6 months pregnant. My sister was in jail, so I did have a little bit of support in there with me. She was in jail before I got to jail. But so finally, about 3 weeks goes by, and I had told myself one night, God, if you'll save me from this, like I'll never go back. And at the time, I think I was just speaking out of withdrawals. I didn't even really know if I meant it. I still don't know if I did, but I know God heard me. And it took another couple more weeks, but the withdrawals passed. And I always tell people it's crazy, 10 years of a life of hopelessness, of chasing drugs every day. And all it took was about 3.5 weeks to feel again, to laugh again, to cry, to feel the love that I had suppressed for my child that was growing inside me. And I'll tell you, like, I went from being so miserable and hopelessness to being incredibly happy right there in jail, locked in a cage, because I knew that when I walked out of those doors, I knew that I was free before I was even free. I knew that when I walked out of those doors, there was no going back. I was so excited to be a mother to my child. And so I was going to court, and the way they do it here, and I don't understand this, is they rotate the judges out. So you might see one judge one time and another judge the next time, which I don't like that, because if one judge does something for you, how can another judge appreciate your progress? And so I'm going to arraignment. And, arraignment's not even court. That's just when they set your date for court. And I'd already been turned down by the first two judges. They agreed with the DA. Oh, she's a danger to herself. She's a danger to her baby. You know, we can't let her out. And I had done 3 months by then. I was 2 weeks away from having my baby. So I'm finally going to arraignment. And the judge, I'd all but accepted, you know, hey, I'm going to have my baby in jail. I'm going to have to let his dad come get him. You know, I'm going to be handcuffed to that hospital bed, ankle and wrist, and then I'm going right back. You know, my son's going to have to be with me for maybe a year, maybe two, but I'm set free, you know, and I'd all but accepted that. And so I'm going to court for arraignment, and they come in and they tell us, well, the judge that was supposed to be here today has COVID, and that was one of the judges that had already turned me down and agreed with the DA. They were like, so we had to, another judge had to step in. So my lawyer, I did have a paid lawyer, and he had told me, you know, we're gonna try again, but don't get your hopes up, you know, to see if we can get your bond lowered. You know, that he wasn't just asking, you know, that they just let me out to have my baby. You know, he was just going to ask for a bond reduction to make it possible for me to get out to be able to have my baby. And I was like, well, you know, we can probably hang that up too, because it would have to be significantly lower than $200,000. So I go into court. My lawyer's talking to the judge, and I'm just standing there, you know, almost full term, you know, big as a house. Crying, tears in my eyes, and the judge, you know, the DA gives his whole spiel. You know, she shouldn't get out. She's a danger to herself. She's a danger to her child. And the judge looks at me, and he's like, I don't want you to say anything. He was like, I can see that you want to be a mom to your child. He was like, and I'm going to give you that chance. He was like, if I let you out and you mess it up, he was like, I'll take your baby from you and I'll sit you down for a long while, but I'm going to give you a chance to be a mom to your child. And his name was Judge Angel.
Wow.
So God literally heard my prayer, knew my heart, and sent an angel to set me free. And, you know, that was about 2.5 years ago, and ever since then I've been sober, and, yeah.
You know, I got to tell you, Adrianna, it reminds me so much of my story. I got saved on my birthday, you know. I got arrested, facing 15 years in prison, man. It was no joke, you know, 1,000 pounds of pot. What do you call it? On video. They had me on video.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm complaining on the video. You got to get out of here. I got things to do. But what do you call it?
Right.
Yeah, I know, man. But I got saved on my birthday. I got arrested 3 days before my birthday. They let me out by miracle in the first place. I got saved, went to church, Pentecostal church on my birthday, went to the altar call on my birthday. And when I went in for my sentencing, the DA went up there and literally says, we wash our hands of this defendant. Like Pontius Pilate, you know? We wash our hands of the... Yeah, I know. And then,
wow.
Yeah, oh, no. Yeah, my story, forget it. It was an absolute miracle, man. Anyway.
Yes.
Now you get out of there, though. Is Cody still using?
No. See, Cody was never an actual addict. He was just an addict by association. So when I went to jail, you know, he never had the plugs or whatever. You know, I was always the one getting it. And so when I went to jail, you know, he was homeless for a little bit and still dabbling, but he got a job and he got a place to live and he sobered right up.
Now, how'd you guys get? Because I know you're very plugged into church now. I see your messages every day on Facebook. You're full of the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
How did that happen? How'd you find a church, and how'd you find a good church to get into?
Well, you know, they have church services in jail once a week,
okay.
And there was ladies that would come and minister to us. And when I got out, they had invited me to their church, so I went to their church. And that's how I started going to church. You know, and I hadn't been to church since I was a little girl. And well, not a little girl. I did go to a church on and off, like in middle school and high school. You know, just with friends. But yeah, so the women who did the jail ministries, I ended up going to their church, and now I actually go to the church that I went to as a young child. And so yeah, that's how it started. And just ever since, you know, Ed, I genuinely never thought that I would be sober. I just knew that I was going to die before I ever got sober. Like, that was just the truth for me. So when God set me free, and, you know, of course, when I got out, no one really knew if I was going to stay sober. I suspect that nobody actually believed it at all, you know, because everyone had knew my history. But like I said, God had set me free, and I had no desire when I got out. I had my baby 2 weeks later, and ever since then, I've just been trying to rebuild my life. And his dad's got a good job. His dad's in school for computer science. Out of those 23 charges that I had, I ended up only pleading out to 3 of them, 1 felony and 2 misdemeanors. And so the first year I had my son, I just breastfed the whole year. And I've been trying to get a job for this past year, and I actually had gotten several jobs, 3 jobs actually. All hired me, brought me in, and, you know, background checks always take like 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah. And a lot of these places will claim that they're felon-friendly, but that's just for public image, I've come to believe, because they'll say that they are, but then when my background comes back, they're not. And my felony is reckless endangerment. It's a driving felony, but in the system, because it's reckless endangerment, because I hit another person's vehicle with my vehicle, I'm the type that, you know, they classify as felons.
Wait, that was was eluding or fleeing the charges?
No, I had a wreck.
Okay.
I was driving high and I T-boned somebody.
Gotcha.
And so reckless endangerment, and it's a felony. But the way they classify that charge, if you look me up, like on the TDOC, I'm labeled as a violent offender.
Yeah. Well, that stuff you can you can get that stuff sealed as time goes on. What about now probation, parole? You in the system there?
Yes, I'm on felony. I'm on state probation. I've been on probation since March of 2022. I get off in March 2024.
Okay, 22 to 24. Okay, so then now, is there a provision in Tennessee where once you've done half of your probation, you can go in there and file a motion to get off probation? I bet you there is.
Sure.
I bet you there is.
Into that. They definitely haven't brought it to my attention.
No,
there
it's
is.
Top secret. Yeah. You need to pay one of those highfalutin lawyers over there in Tennessee.
And I'll tell you though, I've had some
good lawyers,
some road bumps with
probation. Yeah.
Because when I first got out, you know, I didn't have anything. I was completely starting over. I'm about to have my baby. I'm breastfeeding exclusively after I have him. So they had told me that my fines were waived.
Yeah. Because
I didn't have no money to pay them. Well, so a couple months ago in February, my boyfriend's family, they lived down in Tampa. They flew us down there to visit with them. I go to probation because, you know, if you're a felon, you got to have a travel pass to travel out of state. And she's like, "Oh, well, you owe over $600 in fines. I can't give you a travel pass until they're paid." And I was like, "What do you mean? My fines are waived because I've been paying, you know, what I can each week on my court fines. If I had probation fines, that was going to mean that I got violated if I didn't pay them. I would have definitely made sure I was paying them. But you told me they were waived." She said, "Oh, they were just temporarily waived. Now that you're not breastfeeding, now you owe it all."
Yeah. There's so many people have no idea. These little rules that they make up and change as you're going along. The system is designed for you to fail. Yeah. And now hopefully you could get you can file a motion even to get these some of these fees removed. I got to tell you, when I got during my probation, I got 5 years probation, but we got it stopped after 2.5 years. But I had 5 years of probation, and I was in the ministry. I was in full-time ministry at the time with the tent ministry. And I had to go up to Maine to speak at this youth detention center. They had brought me up there to speak at this youth detention center. And so when I went to get my travel pass, the woman freaked out. She goes, "No way." And she put in my travel papers that in no way was I allowed to enter any kind of jail or detention center. So if I would have got arrested, I could have pulled this thing out and said, "You can't take me to jail." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I have a get out of jail free pass. Yeah, I'm not allowed to go to jail.
Right.
But but they didn't want me speaking to the kids, to keep them out of jail.
Yeah.
Just it's amazing the way the system is designed. Now the thing is, if you go to GoFundMe from Addict to a Future, you can see the picture of Adrianna Frizzell. First, you can see the first picture of her where she's this chunky little drug addict, okay, in the jail. Yeah. And then the next picture, this beautiful young woman whose eyes are clear as a bell. You can see her skin's all clear. You can see she's sober. And then this beautiful little baby, Jace, okay, we're counting on his whole future here for this family, for Cody, for Adrianna, and for Jace. And the solution we're seeking right now today is some donations, okay, to help cover these court costs and these fines and all this nonsense. It's about $5,000. They've already raised $1,300, so it's not that much to get them over this hump into a good, peaceful, worry-free life where you don't have this stuff hanging over you.
Right. Yes. The way it works here is just in Tennessee. If you have any court costs and fines related to driving, which two of my charges was DUI and reckless endangerment. Any of the charges that are related to driving, they will not let you get your license reinstated until you can prove that those fines and costs have been taken care of. And so, and on top of that, on top of having to see, I had a DUI associated by drugs. I never was an alcoholic, but yet a DUI is a DUI in their eyes. So I still have to, even once I get past these fines and costs, when I finally can get my license reinstated, I still have to have an interlock system on my car for a year, and I never even have had an alcohol problem.
Also statistically, if you don't have your license, your driver's license, you don't have a valid driver's license, statistically, your odds of reoffending and all that kind of stuff just goes through the roof. That's one of those things. If you haven't completed a drug course, if you haven't graduated some kind of, if you're not in a stable relationship like they are, those kind of things, the odds go through the roof of reoffending, which they're already so statistically so high. So if we could just get past this hump with the driver's license and get that cleared up, that would just statistically would reduce the chances of this beautiful young boy having to go on, God forbid, without parents. Without parents in his life to guide him and take care of him every day. So we really want to, we're asking for your help to heal this family, to help them get to their next stage in life. And all that is a couple of bucks, man, $10, $20. GoFundMe from Addict to a Future. The link, you'll find it in the description of this podcast here too. But also too, if you just Google GoFundMe from Addict to a Future, it's the one from Cody Ullman and Adrianna Frizzell. Am I pronouncing that correctly, Adrianna Frizzell?
Yes, Adrianna Frizzell. And I'm glad that you brought that up because it's so true what you just said. When you're on probation, it is required that you have a job. But how can you get to a job if you can't drive to a job?
Right.
You can't drive to a job if you don't have a license. So you're right. A lot of people they get really discouraged and they just become repeat offenders.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I do have a job, and my mother-in-law and I have friends that help me get back and forth. And my son goes to daycare while I'm at work. And thank goodness here in Tennessee they offer it's like government-funded daycare, so his daycare is taken care of. But there are some days when I worry about being able to pick him up from daycare, being able to get to and from work. And I'm still going every single week and paying what I can on my fines and costs, but it's just going to take a long time. That's a lot of money to try to come up with when you are literally just starting over in your life from rock bottom.
Oh yeah, there's just any family when you got a brand new kid in the house, and you got to feed this kid.
Right.
they eat like monsters.
Yes.
They need clothes, diapers, they need all kind of stuff. It's expensive
right.
having a kid.
He's a boy, so he's not trying to start potty training. So those diapers are expensive.
Hey, what's that supposed to be? I don't know about that one.
Well, boys are harder than girls.
You think so?
Okay, it's like proven. Like every parent says it. So yeah.
I tell you, when my daughter, she went to preschool, she wasn't potty trained yet, almost 3 years old, because I didn't care. But the preschool teacher says, "Nope, I'm gonna potty train them all in one day." She took all their diapers off, and running around. They had to go to the bathroom. She ran into the bathroom, taught them all. In a week, they were all potty trained. Adrianna Frizzell. It's under Cody Oman, O-M-A-N, from Addict to a Future. And $10, $15, it would be so easy if even 10% of the people listening to the show just chipped in $5-10. This would all be taken care of in 1 week. And I've seen the audience do it before. You don't do it for me anymore, but at least if someone is as kind as a family here, it's a young family out there trying to get a start in life. Help them out here, man. It would be a great blessing to this family here. Anything else you want to share with us before we go?
Well, there is a verse that I wanted to read to the audience. Okay. And I did want to say too, recovery is contagious for anyone out there struggling in addiction. We do recover, and there are people that care. My name is Adrianna Frizzell. I'm not really anybody, but I am somebody who's been there, and if you are an addict, I say with the full authority, I am you. And if you would like somebody to reach out to talk to, someone to just be a friend, you can always look me up on Facebook. Once again, my name is Adrianna Frizzell. And I wanted to read to you guys 1 Peter 5:10. And after you have suffered a little while, the God of all grace, who has called you to his eternal glory in Christ, will himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you. And I think that verse really sums up the story for us addicts. We were addicts, but that's not all we are. It's my firm belief that addicts have a true holy calling on their life. We're the only people who can understand and help others like us out of that. And not only that, it's such a real, how do I put this into words? It's such a true honor. I don't want to say to be an addict, but if you can go from addiction and all the turmoil of it, and if you can find the strength through God, because only God can break that stronghold, to beat that, then we are a force to be reckoned with. All of Satan's tricks, all of the lies that kept us in addiction, when we make it out of that, we see that. And just by embodying that freedom, we help other people free themselves.
Amen.
Amen.
Adrianna, thank you so much. Keep us updated on your progress and what's going on here. Adrianna Frizzell, Frizzell on Facebook. Adrianna, I was pronouncing it correctly the other night. She got very upset. Cody Oman, you can find him there too on her Facebook too as well. The GoFundMe one last time is from Addict to a Future. You could find it there. And donate a couple of bucks, help him out. Beautiful little boy there, Jace Marcellus?
Yeah, Jace Marcellus. Oh, yeah, and I would like to tell the audience that, too. Before we even knew what his name meant, we named him, we liked the name Jace. But I came to find out later, after I was sober and had him, the name Jace means to heal and salvation. Which is another, God-ordained thing. Because that's exactly what he's been for my life. Yeah,
absolutely. I could feel you got a calling on your life there, Adrianna. So thank you so much for sharing with us today. And once again, one last time, from Addict to a Future, it's the Cody Oman GoFundMe. Check it out and help out this family here. It's just a cup of coffee a week, man, and you can help out this family here. And everything's stacked up against you, And one thing we can all help out with here is a couple of bucks. And to help ease that, level the playing field there, level out so you're trying to make a future for yourself, that everything's not obstacles in your path, but actually some help in your path. So Adrianna, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, Ed.
Good night.